How's it going, guys? This weekend we have our first 3D shoot we're going to. 3 of the Fletch Deep TV members are going to be going out there. So I figured I'd do a little bit of introduction, show you guys what exactly 3D archery is, and we'll try and get a couple videos from this weekend. But we'll go over, I'll talk a little bit about scoring rings, how it's shot, and then I'm going to dive into arrow selection for 3D tournaments. Just depending on how deep you want to get into it, and I'll go over points, point weight, bushings, fletchings. I'll try and go through a little bit of it all, so hopefully I'm not too vague. And like always, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask, comment on these videos. Let us know what you're thinking. If they're good, if they're bad, if you want to see something completely different. So stay tuned, guys, and I'm gonna grab some arrows here. Okay, guys, I'm just going to start off with the standard. This is just a gold tip XT hunter. This is the one you guys have seen some pictures of on the Facebook page. This is what I fletched up recently. A key item when you're shooting 3D are these nock bushings. A lot of people like to aim at your arrow, which is, if you don't have these bushings to protect the back of your arrow, you're going to have a lot of broken nocks, a lot of broken arrows. So it pays to put those bushings in there. It's really going to save you a couple arrows if you've got some people who can shoot and are aiming at your arrows. So that always helps. In 3D, if it is unknown yardage, it is nice to have a little bit more speed. Certain tournaments have a speed regulation of 290 feet per second. That's in your major ASA tournaments. A lot of local tournaments that I've been to, the rule is you have to shoot 5 grains per pound of draw weight. So if you're shooting 70 pounds, your arrow has to be at least 350 grains, excuse me. If it's over that, you can shoot whatever speed your bow can do. If your arrow is under that weight, though, you have to be under that 290 feet per second. So it might be a little bit advantageous to shoot a little bit lighter arrow at 3D. Stay instead of the XT hunter or a kinetic, maybe some kind of heavier arrow. Might be a little better to switch to the velocity for 3D. And another key thing is easy pull points. Some of those targets are a little bit hard to pull out of, especially if they're brand new targets or if it's cold at all. It can be really hard to pull those arrows out of there. So sometimes it's nice to get some arrow lube, which is going to make them pull a lot easier, and easy pull points. Gold Tip makes them. You can get some from Cabela's. Just about anywhere has some kind of easy pull point, which is going to make them a whole lot easier to pull out of those stiff 3D targets. Let's move on to the fat arrows that I shoot for 3D. This is a Gold Tip XXX. As you can see, the difference in diameter here. Like I was talking about, to score that ring, all you have to do is touch the line. So this will give you a little bit of leeway. You can be just that little hair off, and instead of missing by a hair, you're going to grab that line. So it is nice to shoot these fatter arrows. They are very, very stiff arrows, so they can be a little more challenging to tune. They're going to be a little less forgiving. That's why a lot of times people will run a 4-fletch pattern on these to give you a little more help in steering. Or just a large vane, kind of like these AA Max Stealths that I'm running right here. And again, run the nock bushings. I don't know if you can see it on here, but right there is where this arrow got hit last year. And if that bushing wouldn't have been there, that may have been a cracked arrow and I'd have to quit shooting it. So again, these bushings save quite a bit of arrows. And it's also kind of funny when your friends start aiming at your arrows and they hit your arrow and they'll deflect from a 12 to an 8. So that's kind of nice sometimes to play a little defense. But also, some people like to shoot their skinny arrows. If they're shooting really well for them, Why change? I know Jesse Broadwater shot the known 50 class at the latest ASA tournament, and he won, shooting an arrow, a micro diameter arrow, similar to this Black Eagle Deep Impact. As you can see, it's a very skinny arrow, but he had it set up, he knew exactly how they shot, and he won it. So it just depends on what you're going there for, guys. If you're confident with your arrows, and you know exactly where they're going to go, where they're going to hit, and you don't want to mess with the tuning required in these fat arrows, maybe it is best to just stick with your skinny arrows. It's all kind of personal preference there. I'll talk a little bit about point weight. I like to shoot about as heavy a point as I can and still stay pretty close to that 290 feet per second. Luckily, I shoot a 31-inch draw length, so I can shoot these heavy XXX arrows with a 150 grain point in them. That is going to reduce on the glance out. Say you do hit the back of somebody's arrow, it's not going to glance out as far. And these fat arrows are awful for shooting in the wind. I'll say that right now. If you're shooting in any kind of open field versus in any kind of timber, especially here in Kansas, it is going to be windy. There's no getting around it. So these are just terrible. They'll plane. They'll end up 5 feet from where you're aiming in any kind of wind. So that's again, or maybe the skinny arrow is going to take advantage there. So it just kind of depends where you're at, what the conditions are going to be, guys. But like I said, that heavy point will help a little, but it's still not going to shoot in the wind like a skinnier arrow would. For women, this is what my girlfriend shot last year. It's an Easton ACC, and with a fairly light point. I believe it's a 70 grain point. I know you're thinking, oh, that's completely opposite of what you just said. Shoot a heavier point, maybe a fatter arrow. But like I said earlier, speed is key in 3D. So for her to get that kind of speed to kind of eliminate yardage estimations, it's a lot easier if you're a couple yards off with a fast arrow versus if you're a couple yards off in your estimation with a slow arrow. Your miss is going to go from half an inch versus 2 inches maybe. So depends on what you're doing there. Like these ACCs have the bushings in the back, so it's going to protect that arrow. And I know these points, these were vicious last year. I think she broke 2 or 3 other people's arrows. So she really didn't have any problems with glance outs on these. And these are just the Easton nib points, I believe. But this year, I think she's going to be running these gold tip. These are just XT Hunters. These are kind of going to be her all-around arrow. And you see they're 4-fletched here with these low-profile vanes. Last year, we had a little bit of problems getting our broadheads to shoot. And I think it's because we were only running 3 of these pink vanes, these low-profile vanes. So this year we added one more vane. It's going to help with the steering of those broadheads, especially when form's not the greatest. If you're in a tree stand, you make maybe just a little bit, you're a little bit off on your grip or your form. That 4-fletch can help a lot to correct that out of the bow. So that's one reason we went with that. The nice thing about the low profile 4-fletch is it actually has a smaller cross section than, say, you can kind of see here. It has a smaller cross section than these big AAE Max stealth vanes. So this is actually going to plane less in the wind than these fatter vanes will. These are going to ultimately probably steer maybe just a little bit better. Probably not with the 4-fletch. If you did a 4-fletch of the big vanes, yeah, they would steer better. Then you're gonna get into a lot of noise, a lot of drag, any long range shooting that's gonna be negative, and then you're gonna have a big cross section, a lot of noise. Not a good idea to run a 4-fletch with big vanes. Only time I would recommend 4-fletch is the smaller vanes. A lot of guys will run 4-fletch on fat arrows, like I was saying, to help steer these a little better if you're having problems tuning these. So I think I'll leave it at there, guys. Like I said, I hope we'll get a little bit of footage from this weekend shoot. And as always, if you have any questions, feel free to comment on the videos, let us know how we're doing, and be sure to like and share the page with all your friends. So stay tuned to Fletch Deep TV, guys.